I don't think Madigan has any respect for Quinn. He's told him he won't raise taxes, and he won't listen. He said it's wrong to raise taxes. Quinn has not been an honest operator. Take the McCormick Place bill. We all, in a bipartisan way, negotiated in good faith to save McCormick Place, some difficult decisions, only to find Quinn sell out to a union for a large check and veto the bill. But, and being the Republican nominee, I had some involvement in this. We were able to save it by overriding Quinn's veto, and within 3 weeks we signed $1 billion. And there's still contracts out there that will not be signed until I'm nominated, to tell you the truth. He's not an honest operator. And he's proven time and time again that he'll sell out to the union interest. He did it for school choice in Chicago when we talked about a voucher plan for 20 of the worst performing school districts. He did it at McCormick Place. He did it with ASME. He has consistently proven that he's willing to put his political interest ahead of the people's interest. Governor Quinn is now misquoting me. I just saw recently, he said Bill Brady wants automatic weapons. That's not true. Automatic weapons are illegal in Illinois. We have a law against them. So here he goes again. I want to enforce the law of the land. Make no mistake, it's been reported. I believe that we should afford, with the right safeguards, our citizens the same constitutional rights they have in 48 or 9 other states to protect themselves. But by and large, I just want to see the laws enforced.
Right, so concealed carry with training, correct?
The background checks, more than training, safeguards that need to be put in place. When it comes to work comp, this is a win-win for business and unions. Unions want their members employed. In a state that's work comps cost twice as much as Indiana, we're losing the ability to employ people. That's why we're struggling so much. But someone's got to sit down and tackle and provide the leadership to tackle the problem. In this campaign, I've never heard Governor Quinn once acknowledge it's a problem. I've never heard him acknowledge once that medical malpractice is a problem. That you go talk to the Springfield Clinic here, as I have, and they'll tell you that their number one challenge in recruiting doctors and healthcare practitioners is the first question they ask them when they come out of school and they come to the interview is Illinois ever going to solve their work comp? Not that work comp, their medical malpractice problem. Well, you go talk to them and they'll tell you it is the single largest challenge, and the reason they lose people is because of that. I'm not saying whether the clinic's doing good or bad. I'm just telling you what they told me, is they're losing some of the best and brightest applicants because of the environment. And so you could call them and ask them, but not once has Governor Quinn indicated that this is a serious issue. And it is a serious issue. There are parts of this state where you cannot find someone who practices medicine that you need. And it is one of the fastest growing economic segments of our economy. It needs to be dealt with, and we need leadership to do it. What I said, in a growing economy, properties increase in value, and through that, now we've got safeguards in Illinois with caps and so forth that need to be continually reevaluated. But here's the point. I believe property tax. I'm a business person. Every business I'm involved in, whether we have receipts or whether we have profits, we pay property taxes just as you do. You don't have a choice on those. We need to provide relief. The biggest burden on property taxes is education. What I've outlined is a start. I'm going to call it a start. I mean, we've got a huge crisis in this state, and the first thing we've got to solve is our budgetary crisis. And there's only so much we can bite off in 1 year. But I'd like to start by establishing something that I call the Education Property Tax Relief Trust Fund. And what it would do is, as we grow revenues, naturally through job creation and otherwise, we would take 10% of that growth and set it aside into that fund. And that fund then would be distributed back to the local treasurers, and they would then reduce the education portion of the property tax accordingly. Well, here's what I said. Only if you have a revenue source. Only if you build. And here's the math of it. is if you build in $1.5 billion in revenue or whatever, and you can pay the bills off with that money over a period of time, or if you substantiate you have that revenue, and the markets would allow you to go in and borrow at 3%, let's say, bring the human service providers whole in the first year, you save paying them 9% interest, it may make some sense. I'm not committed to it. But given the catastrophe that we're in, and last week, we were deemed to be the worst state in the nation to reimburse human service providers. The Council Against Domestic Violence and Against Sexual Abuse chastised Governor Quinn for the position that he's put them in to have to lay people off and not do their job because we haven't paid the bills. It's a serious problem. But this is growth. This isn't, we're going to reconcile a plan to pay down the backlog of unpaid bills and to balance our budget in the first year. Here's the reality of it, okay? Under the federal stimulus plan, it allowed for a program where the state of Illinois said if you hire someone that we approve, we'll pay $10 an hour and all the taxes. All you have to do is submit a stub, and we'll pay them. It cost $75 million in federal money. That's a plan that Governor Quinn implemented. I'm not even implemented. It expired about 2 weeks ago. Governor Quinn, under his own dictate, without any federal money, it was federal money, without any federal money, said we're going to expand this program 2 months, which takes him through the election. That's his jobs plan. For the taxpayers of Illinois to pay for these people to work, while he cannot pay human service providers who are laying people off. It is wrong. But as an election ploy, he decided to expand it. It's unconscionable that the legislature gave him the authority to do that. He's trying to preserve a 40-year political career. He'll say and do anything. He's proven that. And I frankly don't believe, I'll give you an example. When the first monetary release program came out, I happened to be on the committee that heard the closing of Thompson. And you can go back and look at the transcript. I asked his director of corrections, who initiated the early release program? The governor's office. Quote, unquote. You mean the governor? Yes. Only, that was the week before, it was about December 20th. The week after, they came up with this scheme. And frankly, with Director Randall's resignation, we have more unanswered questions in this program than answered questions. I believe civil unions are the same thing as gay marriage, and I don't believe in gay marriage. The federal courts have ruled on this, but the only thing I can do is governors initiate something that's part of the law of the land that gives parents a notification in the cause of a minor child's medical procedures. So it's my personal beliefs are my personal beliefs, but I'll respect and honor the law of the land. All the evidence is that adult stem cell research is where the progress has been made. I think it's almost become a mute issue because there isn't any benefit anymore that I've seen in embryo. I would allow local school districts to choose the curriculum as a not a science, not as a science.
One other quick question.
Let me read it. I said as a, not a science, not as a science.
Would they have to teach the science part too? The evolution part?
I believe they should teach evolution. I have a big problem with the federal government writing checks for political purposes that they don't have the money to cover. But Illinois taxpayers have paid a lot of money into the federal government. And if there's going to be a program that's put in place, I will protect the interest of Illinois taxpayers. As you well know, I'm a large proponent of high-speed rail. I believe it's part of our future. And I'll continue to push for that as a form of transportation that oftentimes is the only form of transportation for some of our citizens that's available to travel distances. And I will continue to work for Illinois to get its fair share of the resources that the federal government does. But I do not believe that we continue to see a federal government that writes checks that they don't have the money to cover. I'm going to leverage every dollar we can that the federal government makes available to states, but it doesn't mean that I philosophically agree with the federal government spending money they don't have.